Well, hi everyone, and welcome to AtScale Live. And today I got two really great experts on AI and ML. I have first Miles Adkins, who's the Senior Partner Sales Engineer of AI and ML at Snowflake. So welcome, Miles.
Yeah, hey Dave, thank you for having me on here. Great to be here.
Great. And we also have another expert in AI and ML, and that's Gaurav Rao. And Gaurav is the EVP and GM of Machine Learning and AI at AtScale. So welcome to the live session, Gaurav.
Thanks, Dave. Looking forward to the discussion today.
Great. So for the audience out there, we have technologists, real people doing real work with products and showing how it all fits together. So really, this is just a preview of what you're going to see when Gaurav and Miles get together on June 30th. So it's June 30th at 2 p.m. Eastern. We're going to be doing a live tech session on feature stores. So we're going to show how Snowflake and a feature store from Feast, as well as AtScale semantic layer, all fit together to deliver a really great platform for doing data science at scale. So with that, again, that's June 30th at 2 p.m. Eastern. So join us for that. So just for a little warm up for that session. I just want to talk a little bit about what the state is of the market today when it comes to AI and ML. So I'm gonna hand that off to I'm gonna ask that question of both Miles and Gaurav. So Miles, what's happening and what do you see in the market today when it comes to AI and ML? Oh shoot, we lost him.
Did we lose Miles?
You back?
Hey everybody, I hit one button and I was gone.
Okay. Mary, can we splice this together or should I start over?
Yeah, I'll try and remove that, but that was kind of funny. So I mean, I might leave it in. No, I'm just kidding.
Actually, should I just play it up? Let me just play it up.
Okay.
We want to do that? It is supposed to be live, so what the hell?
Yeah, sure. Go for it.
Okay, let's do it. Okay, so Miles is back. So Miles, was it something I said or what?
I just hit one button on my keyboard and I was gone, but I'm back now. Looking forward to continuing here.
Great. So it's great to have you back. And so you can't get out of this question, Miles. So the question is, what's going on in the market today when it comes to AI and ML?
Oh yeah. I mean that's could be a very long-winded answer, but basically, the market is all over the place, right? You have some of these very sophisticated companies today. Your top brands, Facebook, Google. There's Amazon, right? And they're all kind of really up that curve of being successful in deploying AI and ML. And then you have companies all the way down to, people who are still just doing their digital transformation and, they hear about AI ML on commercials and they're like, oh yeah, like that's kind of cool. Maybe we should look into doing that. Like, what does that even really mean? And so in my seat today, I mean, just being here at Snowflake, I've been at a couple of other AI ML companies along the way. And the story is always the same, right? We have some people who, don't even know what a model is. And then you have obviously, deep learning, natural language processing, computer vision, some of these top leading companies building very sophisticated systems. And so it's just, in my opinion, the haves and the have-nots. There's this chasm of, hey, we've been able to overcome all of these technological issues to do AI ML well. And then there's this bottom, 75% that are still trying to just figure out, how do I get this done?
It seems like I like your haves and have-nots, and we see that all the time where you see big tech companies can invest in large teams and to do the sort of investments into training and really being able to do bespoke things and do it from scratch. where most companies out there, they're not in the business to do AI. They're in the business to improve customer experiences and to sell more product and increase revenue and lower costs. And they just don't have those resources to really put to the problem. So it's pretty difficult today. So Gaurav, what's your take on the market and where we stand today?
Very similar to Miles. So, the two numbers that really stand out to me are 15 trillion, right? Which is the global economic impact of AI by 2030. And then the second number is 23, 24, 25%, which, as Miles was referring to, is really the number of companies that are actually incorporating ML and AI into a offering they're taking to market and getting return on that investment. So, on one side, we see this huge opportunity, we see the investment, but it's not translating into deployed machine learning or applied AI. And I think some of that has to do with skills and the deficiencies in skills, right? To do this is still challenging and difficult. I think the second reason we see this is because, algorithms and then how to efficiently run those algorithms with the right compute is challenging, right? As Miles mentioned, there's NLP, computer vision, tabular workloads. The rate and pace at which these algorithms are evolving are drastic compared to how they've changed over the last 5 to 10 years. And then I think finally, what we see kind of keeping that 23 or less than 30% at bay is it's lacking the business context, right? Mm-hmm. We don't see applied AI because we build sort of these sandbox environments without the end state process workflow or application in mind. And if we could somehow bridge that, I think that becomes a powerful way to move the needle forward.
Yeah, I think we're gonna talk a little bit about that and do some show and tell on June 30th around feature stores, and sounds like feature stores might be able to help there. So, but just for the audience, because it's a concept that's been out there, but Miles, how would you define a feature store, and why do we care, and why would we want one?
Yeah. So, I mean, a more common, I think, idea out there in the market today is a model store, right? That was kind of one of the first store things to come into AI and ML, right? We need a place for you just to land all of your models. And so a feature store kind of is just another kind of component that wraps the store concept around, features. What's interesting though is a model store for the most part is all it's really doing is just kind of like hosting and serving models. A feature store is really much more needed from an end-to-end process of, hey, how do we make sure we get all of our raw data kind of into the right shape and the right format for modeling? How can I think about automating all that so I'm not having to kind of rebuild this data pipeline, this data funnel for every single kind of bespoke use case that I think I'm going to come up with? And then on the production side, have consistency all the way through, so you're not having to, again, have a data scientist build a model a certain way, pass off, all of these artifacts to a data engineer, and then say, hey, wait a minute, go just rebuild the whole thing, right? I didn't think about how to, build this from the scratch, but now to get this into production. And to Gaurav's point, usually a data scientist will build a model and they don't know how to deploy it, right? The feature store is going to help you kind of go end to end with a very kind of streamlined approach and a standard approach for you to not just have success with one model, but then also scaling up, tens, hundreds, thousands of models.
Yeah, there's also a lot of talk about, just to confuse things a little bit more, metric stores or semantic layers. So Gaurav, you've become a quick expert on metric stores and semantic layers as well. So how does that interact with the feature store? What's the relationship there?
Well, the great thing is the underpinning is one and the same, right? And I think Miles hit on the word consistency. So, from a business standpoint, the actuals that we're collecting, those form calculations, metadata, and a lot of that gets stored sort of from a business metric standpoint, like the KPIs that matter. And then equivalently, you have machine learning artifacts like features, predictions, feature sets, and all of these become important attributes as you continue to build in ML pipelines. And the beauty of a semantic layer is if that becomes the underpinning, you have a consistent way of exposing both interacting as well, extracting as well as publishing bidirectionally between two different personas in a very common, consistent way. And that's where sort of the semantic layer comes in play as the ability to power both a metric store for things like BI, but also equivalently for feature stores for machine learning and AI.
Yeah, so you could really sort of bring together those two personas, like you mentioned, the data scientists and the business analysts, all speaking the same language, and really sort of avoid a lot of the manual data prep that sort of both personas usually need to do to get the job done. So besides the data prep, right, there's also just the publishing of that analysis that Miles mentioned, that once you actually create those new predictions and features, you now have a platform to use those across BI tools or other AI ML tools, auto ML tools, or notebooks for that matter.
Exactly. And I think speaking the same language in their native dialects is important here, because we know BI users and analysts and data scientists and engineers, as I'm sure Miles will point out, different tools, different languages. It's nice to have a consistent interface that understands those dialects so that they can speak the same language, but also use their existing tools without having to go somewhere else.
So Miles, Snowflake is really known as the real pioneer in really making the data warehouse, reinventing it in the cloud, and customers love it. I love it. I'm a customer of it, but here you are. You're really leading the data science, AI and ML side. So how does Snowflake think about those workloads, the AI and ML workloads, compared to the traditional sort of, more business or BI workloads?
Well, yeah, I think the way that Snowflake has looked at it is always been something that's kind of been a little bit out of reach. The history of Snowflake is, back in like 2015, 2016, we looked pretty much identical to your on-premise data warehouse, right? You put in some SQL, we have tables, database artifacts, and to the end consumer at that point in time, it was like, oh, this is really just a data warehouse replacement in the cloud. Now, the benefits of the architecture that our founders came up with is we can kind of have the ability to drop that data warehouse sign and put up just a data platform sign, because of the fact that we've knocked down all these data silos. We're able to incorporate a lot of new feature types or features on the platform related to a single layer across all of your infrastructure clouds and all this good stuff. And so by kind of evolving from a warehouse to just a data platform in general, all these new workloads started to kind of make sense for us to go after. Data engineering was kind of the next step. And then where we are today is because we can kind of just run arbitrary code now. Well, now you can just start running, ML training code, right? Or inference code. And so because the architecture on the back end didn't limit you to, certain operations, the whole kind of workload spectrum completely opened up for Snowflake.
Yeah, I've worked with Snowpark myself, and I know you guys have the Python interfaces now. So you've gone way past just a SQL interface. So is that what you're talking about in terms of really, and I noticed you guys you don't call yourself a cloud data warehouse, you call yourself a data platform. So you're really opening it up to multiple workloads, not just BI.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so it's really about kind of just being the engine for any data workload that you might have. And again, we had this SQL was kind of the main dialect for you to talk to us a few years back. How do we give you other hooks into our engine, right? If you're a data scientist, data engineer, you might want to work in Python and Scala. We've now given you those dialects to tap into your data. If you were more of an application developer and we're comfortable coding in Java, we've now given you hooks to tap into that engine. And so the SQL engine has really just become this general data engine for you to program in your language of choice. And obviously that's attracted a lot of different kind of personas that map kind of very well to specific workloads as well.
Yeah, it's a real testament to your architecture that you can be so flexible like that. So, Miles, you work a lot with customers, and you're down in the weeds there. What's some common themes where your customers or prospects, where you hear a lot of people struggling with? What are some of the issues that they're dealing with today?
Yeah, it's for the most part they've figured out how to go from 0 to 1. They've identified, okay, we have some inefficiency in our business. And, if I can predict, for example, in software sales, who's going to churn this quarter, right? I can think about, giving them discounts, reaching out to them with more engaged support, all these types of things. But once they get that first one into production, they realize, wow, like there's a lot of technical debt in this first use case. I can't even imagine how I can go from 1 to 10 with all these other use cases that have kind of scoped out. And so it's really that ability to kind of scale from 1 to 10 to 100, where organizations, they didn't quite learn that muscle going from 0 to 1, because it's very much like a POC bespoke thing, and they kind of stuck just trying to reinvent the wheel every single time, and eventually with the process not being right, then the people start to, burn and churn, right? And so I think, just having a consistent, staff within your data science organization is, probably the number one, thing we see. And that's really because, the organization just hasn't thought about scale from the beginning.
Yeah, Gaurav, you mentioned your number 23, which is that sort of points to what the problem that Miles was just identifying. What else do you see, Gaurav? You see something similar in terms of people struggling?
Absolutely. I think we see struggles around training and building these first sets of models, and especially with what we're doing with the feature store here. Being able to take some of the hardest tasks, the most time-consuming tasks, and then making them available for reuse becomes time to value as you go from model 1, 2 to N for application 1, 2 to N. And then I think another area that we're starting to see more and more challenges and now opportunities around is governance and control. So even, leveraging what we can do at AtScale, right, on how we understand our data, how we can control our data and provide authentication, access, and then policy management. All of that extends to machine learning and AI, as well as developers build, train, deploy, and scale out these pipelines. So our customers are asking us, how can we do this, again, to use the word consistently with some of the data practices that we already have in place around data governance, data security.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. So, we have some exciting tech that we're going to show you to solve some of these problems. Again, on June 30th, join us for that tech session. We'll give you a walkthrough. But in the meantime, Miles, you got some exciting things coming up. I think Snowflake Summit's coming up soon here. What can you tell us about some of the things that the listeners might be excited about us tuning in for?
Yeah, it's going to be big. We'll all be in Vegas in the middle of June, and so it's going to
lovely.
It's going to be hot, but the snow hopefully will all be there. You can expect a lot of new product announcements specific to, again, data engineering, data science workloads. Some of this is knowledge that's kind of already out in the market. You'll see Snowpark for Python kind of go public preview which will kind of open that up to everybody out there. But then, of course, we have some new stuff that we have in the works that we're really looking forward to bringing and showing to the market on how we're thinking about the next kind of evolution of Snowflake. You can see us really go from, just doing batch type of workloads to kind of, faster, stream processing, faster tables for data applications. Again, a lot of the kind of underlying, infrastructure components that you need to, again, have a better feature store experience, train models, all that good kind of stuff. So we'll be pushing a lot out there.
Exciting. I'll be there in Las Vegas sweating with you. Hopefully the snow doesn't melt. So what about you, Gaurav? What's in store for what's AtScale cooking up when it comes to AI and ML?
Well, similarly, you're going to see a lot of innovation on Python and sort of how we expose our best-in-class enterprise semantic layer to developers for machine learning and AI. Everything from how you generate features to how we can automatically recommend features based on known schemas, to writing back, right? Some of these insights that we create as part of the ML lifecycle and make that available as part of templates, either in your machine learning tool or, in your BI tools of choice that are connected to the semantic layer. And
awesome.
I'll also be in Vegas sweating with the both of you.
All right, we'll sweat around a cool drink. Okay, so guys, thanks a lot for joining us today, and to listeners out there, join us for the Tech Talk session on June 30th, 2 p.m. Eastern, and thanks for joining us, and thanks for listening today.